So there's a version of this career that gets talked about a lot online. 6 figures, flexible schedule, work when you want, travel the country. That version is absolutely real. I lived it for 20 years. But there's another version that doesn't get talked about nearly as much. And if you go in without knowing it, you're going to be in for a rough education. I'm Matt. I spent 2 decades as an independent property adjuster. And then for nearly the past 10 years, I've been training new independent adjusters through Adjuster TV. And when my graduates finish, some of the top IA firms in the country will waive their experience requirements so that you can get to work now instead of waiting years to qualify. None of this is meant to talk you out of being an adjuster. It's meant to make sure that you actually last. So let's get into this starting now. Nobody tells you how long the ramp is. The single biggest shock for most new adjusters isn't the work itself, it's the timeline. People watch a video, they decide they want to do this and mentally start spending money they haven't made yet. They find out that there's a license to get, training to complete, iFirm onboarding to grind through, carrier certifications to earn, additional state license to obtain, gear to buy, cash to set aside, and none of that happens relatively quickly. The realistic timeline from decision to first deployment is as little as 30 days, okay, up to a year or even 18 months, okay? And that's if you're moving with purpose the whole time. If you're treating it as a side project while you figure out whether you're serious about this or not, this can stretch out forever, okay? Part that really stings, you do not get paid during any of that. The ramp is entirely on your time and your dime. So before anything else, before you spend the dollar on training your gear, you've got to make sure you've got the financial runway to get through that period without it breaking you. Number 2, nobody tells you what the lifestyle actually looks like. The travel sounds exciting until you're 6 weeks into a deployment, sleeping in a hotel outside of Baton Rouge, eating fast food 3 times a day, and you haven't seen your family since the storm hit. Catastrophe property field adjusting is not really a remote work lifestyle. It's a go where the storm went lifestyle. The storms don't care about your kid's baseball game, your anniversary, or your mother-in-law's birthday. The adjusters who do well long-term are the ones who either don't have obligations that conflict with that lifestyle, or they built their lives around it deliberately. I'm not saying you can't have a family and do this. So many people do, even with young kids. But it requires a level of planning and honest conversation with those people in your life that most people will skip before they get into this. And the flip side is real too. When you're not deployed, you're not working. And that's kind of the trade-off, right? Freedom on the back end, absence on the front end. But make sure people in your corner understand both sides of the deal before you sign up. If you want the full, complete picture on what it takes to get started, step by step in detail from licensing to your very first deployment, my beginner's guide covers all of that. The link is in the description below, or go to adjustertv.com/start. Number 3, nobody tells you about the physical side of this. Field adjusting is a physical job. It's not construction worker physical or firefighter physical, but it's a lot more physical than sitting in an office and a lot more physical than most people expect when they hear insurance adjuster, okay? You're climbing ladders, you're getting up on roofs, crawling through attics or into crawl spaces, and you're doing that in August in Florida or Texas when it's 115 degrees and humid enough to wring out the air. And then you're going back to your hotel room to work into the wee hours of the night. If you've got physical limitations that would make roof access difficult, something to think about before you invest in this path. There are desk adjuster roles that don't require field work, but that's a different track than what we're talking about here. Next up, nobody tells you that getting licensed is the easy part. A lot of people treat getting licensed as the hard part. Do the pre-licensing training stuff, pass the exam, get the license. Now I'm an adjuster. It's not exactly how it works. The license makes you eligible, okay? That's all it does. It doesn't teach you how to write an estimate. It absolutely does not teach you how to read a roof for hail damage. It doesn't teach you how to talk to a homeowner who's convinced that you're trying to underpay them. The license is the entry fee. A lot of IA firms will not let you even apply without at least one license. The actual skill set is what determines whether you make money or go home early. And speaking of going home early, nobody tells you what happens if your first deployment goes badly. Here's the thing that most training programs do not talk about because it's not good for sales. Not everybody makes it through their first deployment. A meaningful percentage of new adjusters get sent home early where they finish a deployment and never get called back. And once that happens, it's very hard to recover your standing with that firm. Let me tell you something, the iFirm world is very, 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 very small, okay? People talk. A new adjuster who showed up unprepared, fell behind on their files, caused problems with homeowners, or couldn't handle the pace. That reputation could follow you around from company to company. And this isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to make clear that your first deployment isn't a trial run. It's an audition, okay? And the firms are watching. All right, so that was kind of black pill doomer stuff, right? So here's the other side of all that. It's not often talked about how good this can actually be, because when this works, it really, really, really works, all right? I've had years where I closed over 1,000 claims. Years where I worked 9 months and took 3 off. Years where I made more money than most people I went to college with, and I did it on my own terms without a boss looking over my shoulder. The lifestyle is real, the income is absolutely real, the freedom is real, but none of this is accidental, and none of it comes without putting in the work to get there. The adjusters who told you that this career changed their life were not lying. They just skipped the part about what it cost them to get here. Being ready starts with understanding exactly what skills you need to walk into your first deployment with, not just the technical ones, but the ones that actually determine whether you get called back. And that's what we're getting into in this next video right here. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and have a great storm.